Hey everybody, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and today I have a special sewing project for you. I'm going to be making an art bag, but there's more to the project than that, so I hope you'll stick around and find out all the information and all the details for this fun project. So later this fall, I'm going to be publishing the results of today's sewing, as long as it goes well. And just sharing with you trying to see the comments here, what this project entails. But Joann Fabric is partnering with the St. Jude Hospital Foundation to just raise money and awareness for all the things that they are doing to help kids. And as someone who has a daughter who has had quite a bit of medical care and surgery, even just in these past few months, I know what it's like to have a great place and a safe place to make sure you can take your kids to get the best care possible. So there'll be more details coming out about that later this fall, and you can check and stay tuned on my social channels. But Joann is sharing this really cute, adorable fabric that they've made in collaboration with St. Jude. And so today we're going to be sewing the art bag with this fabric. So you're going to get a tutorial. You can feel good if you buy this fabric, or you can also make a donation to St. Jude later in the campaign. So I'd love to see where you guys are coming from, and let me know you are watching. I think I can see your comments. I'm checking it out here on my computer. I see Lucy saying hi, so I'm glad you guys are here, and I'm going to bring up the tutorial on my laptop so I can go ahead and take a look at this. So we are going to put this art bag together. It's such a great and easy project, really fun to sew, and today I've got that special fabric, and looks like it's going to be the perfect fabric to create an art bag. So you might be saying, what is an art bag? I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, an art bag is a bag that kids can use to, did I do this wrong? Maybe I did. That kids can use to carry around art supplies. So it's a great one for if you're traveling. My daughter carries one when we go to the boys' sporting events because she doesn't like to watch their sports. So there's just a lot of really fun things and ways that you can use this bag. But it's also great if you know someone who has to be in the hospital or is in the hospital, or you want to make a donation to kids in the hospital, that fill it with art supplies, and then we can go ahead and it just makes a great gift for people who are maybe stuck in the hospital for a while, or just need some arts and crafts projects or things to keep them busy, or even not feeling well at home. So it's a great gift, and it's a fun project. So I've linked the tutorial in the description of this video, and so you can find the tutorial that I'm going to be following today to put this bag together. I just am putting some pretty purple thread in my bobbin, but we're going to go ahead and sew that here, and I'm going to get my machine threaded up, and we will take care of all of that. So I would love to know what you guys are sewing right now and anything fun on your sewing table. It's kind of dreary and gray here today. Definitely starting to feel like fall, even though it's not too cool, but it feels like a little bit of a change in the weather. So, all right. So today I'm just going to this is just your basic cotton woven fabric. So I'm going to be using just a regular needle on my sewing machine, maybe a couple of different stitches, but a great project just to do on your machine. So I'm trying to get both myself and the machine in the picture so that you can see it. So so I have two different fabrics here. There's actually like a Christmas one as well, but the two that I think look good together and that I'm going to use for my bag. So I have two bag outside pieces. Okay, so right here, this sort of abstract purple and green. I think it's really pretty. Then I have those same two sizes cut for the lining with this cute fish fabric. Okay, and then I'm going to put pockets to put those crayons or pencils or markers or whatever sort of art supplies you want on the outside. And we're going to do the fish fabric. And I have to make sure that I have the fish facing up. And then we're going to make two straps as well. So that is what we're going to be sewing and creating. And I hope you will join me. So I'm going to start with the outside. Now, the last time I made this, I made it from flannel, which is also really cozy and works great for this bag. But today I'm using this cotton. So I decided to, because it's just a little thinner fabric, to cut the pocket large enough that I can fold it over. So my pocket is actually a tall piece, the same width as the bag, and then we're going to fold it over so those raw edges on the bottom line up. And then I'm going to pin or clip this along the bottom edge of the bag. So if your bag fabric is different, top or bottom, you're going to want to make sure that you have it facing up at this point when you put the pocket fabric in place. And at this point, what you're going to do is you are going to sew lines up and down, depending on if you're going to use markers or crayons or colored pencils. You might want this a little bit shorter if you're going to use crayons. I'm going to put colored pencils because I just think they're so fun for coloring and they don't make too much of a mess. So we're going to sew some colored pencil lines in here, and then we can do the same thing on the other side with the second pocket. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing on this side just because why not? I'm going to put my needle in the center. And then you do want to make sure you give a little back stitch at the top of your sewing so that when people or kids are pulling those markers or those colored pencils in and out, that the top doesn't come loose. It's a little bit less important to back stitch on the bottom of the project because that is going to be sewn again into another seam. But at this point, we want to make sure that we're reinforcing that. So there's the one stitch, and we're just going to sew lots of these, so bear with me. I am following lines on my sewing machine to create about 3/4 inch wide sections, and you can vary the width of these lines if you depending on what, like I said, like what you're putting in there. So I see there's a question about making simple dresses for Operation Christmas Child. I think that's great. I feel like the easiest and maybe most versatile type dress is like a tank or a sleeveless. And I've seen people do like the pillowcase style, you know, with just the ties. And then if you get a child who's bigger or smaller, then it's easy to adjust the size because you just have those ties on there. And if they're taller, it can be a shirt. If they're shorter, it can be a dress. So I feel like that's what I have seen work well, but I don't know if anyone else has any other suggestions for Rebecca, who is wanting to make something fun to give away to a kid that she probably doesn't really, you know, Operation Christmas Child, you kind of have an age range, but you don't have an exact size or even age of a child. So this is where it's great to have an idea of something that can come in and provide, you know, some flexibility within that sizing. So I don't know if anyone else has any other ideas, but share away. All right, so I'm just sewing up and down. I'm going to make one side of my pocket with lots of lines to be able to put like a full dozen colored pencils. And then on the other side, I think what I'm going to do is just do 2 large pockets. And this would be great for like glue sticks or even tiny craft scissors. hole punches, just any other crafting supplies that you want to carry along. And we need a little bit bigger pocket for that. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that once I finish making all of these up and down lines for the colored pencils. But you can see here the purple thread looks great with these fish, and we're just stitching along there. If you don't like to just sew these lines willy-nilly, like you might think I'm doing right here, you can go ahead and, of course, use a ruler and a pencil or a disappearing ink pen for sewing marking, and draw out all these lines before you go ahead and sew them. You don't have to just sew, and they probably would be more equally spaced, but I found that once I put all those pencils in there, it doesn't really matter if they're exactly evenly spaced as long as the pencils can fit into the slots. So you don't need to sew all the way to the edge because, again, that side is going to be caught up in the side seam. So I'm just sewing, and I'll show you here. The first and last one, I've left a good like 1/2 inch or so on there, and it's open along there, but that will be caught up. So this probably won't be a pocket. It's a little bit too narrow, but it will be, looks good right there with those fish and all that together. Okay. So that is side number 1 of the main front. And we're going to, like I said, so side number 2 of the main front, we're going to take our fish fabric pocket, and I'm folding it exactly in half. Okay, and then I'm going to sew maybe 2/3. So this could fit little scissors, and this could put glue sticks, but you really can sew it however you want. But I think just in the moment, I'm making that executive decision that I'm going to sew about 2/3 of the way over. So I have a little bit smaller and a little bit larger pocket, and I can put a number of different craft supplies in there as well. Okay, so now we have pocket number 2 sewed onto the bottom of the bag. Hi, Patty. Hi, Arnell. I'm just going to click over now and check out my tutorial to see what I'm doing. Okay, so definitely want to make sure that I know what I'm doing here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew the bag together with right sides touching and the pockets matching up on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and line up those corners and sides. And we're going to do this with both the lining fabric and the outer fabric. This is the outer part of the bag because we put the pocket on it. So I'm going to put, it's like wants to get away from me, several clips there. We're going to put a couple clips along the bottom. All the dimensions for cutting this bag, the pockets, and the handles is in the tutorial on lifesewsavory.com. So you can go ahead and check that out there if you want. Okay. And you could sew this with a serger. You can, I'm just really enjoying sewing it on my sewing machine, but it's up to you how you want to do it. Seam allowance, again, when things aren't meant to be worn and the seam allowance is more important because it affects the fit, I'm a little bit more loose with the seam allowance, but I generally either follow just inside or along the edge of the presser foot and give myself that sort of 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to sew down one side, then across the bottom, and up the other side, securing all the layers and anchoring and securing the pocket on both the sides and the bottom, because we want to make sure that that pocket is secure, that the things that you put in it are actually going to stay in it. We don't want any colored pencils falling through the bottom or any holes. So you are also sewing up the actual bottom of the pocket in this seam. So make sure you're taking a look at how that's coming together as you're sewing that. So I'm just pivoting on the corners. Again, about a 3/8 inch seam allowance. This is a little bit of extra pocket sticking out. So at this point, it looks like I have a wider seam allowance, but I'm actually really on the main fabric still sewing that more narrow seam allowance, but there was some extra pocket sticking out. All right, and I'm back stitching at the top. All right, let's turn this right side out and see how it goes. Oh, Kathleen, I know. This is a beauty, a quiet beauty. It is so nice and quiet. And which is great because the microphone is literally right here. And because I want you guys to be able to hear also what I'm saying. And then, yeah, it is amazing. Okay, so let's take a look here at our little bag. And okay, so this is just the size that I've created. It's big enough to put some coloring sheets in or a small coloring book. But if you want to make a bigger bag, just go ahead and adjust the measurements of the main bag pieces and then the width of the pocket as well, depending on what you want to put in. If you have a specific like coloring book or activity pad that you want to fit in there, double check that it fits before you cut it out so that you can make sure that it will be able to go inside along with your accessories when you're finished with it, okay? So here's the little pockets all along the side. And on this side, we have the two bigger pockets to put some other supplies in. Okay, so now we're gonna take the lining, which is these cute little fishies, and we're going to sew them together with right sides together. I'm going to leave a hole in the bottom of the lining for turning the project after we sew it together, right? Because we're going to sew the lining and the outer together, and we want to be able to turn it right side out, and then we can just sew up on the inside of the lining, and you won't really see it unless you're, getting really in there with the magnifying glass. So I'm not going to pin this one because I can just keep the edges lined up, and I don't have those pockets that I really want to make sure that we're lined up and exact. So again, you're sewing this with the same seam allowance that you just sewed the main outside pieces of the bag. I'm going to keep these all lined up. You are welcome to leave your turning hole on the side of your lining or on the bottom of your lining. Both are fine. That's a great place to leave a hole about 4 to 6 inches wide for us to be able to turn the bag once we sew the tops together. So I'm going to pivot here, and then I'm going to backstitch pretty quickly to secure one edge of the turning hole. And I like to backstitch on where I'm going to turn because sometimes I just find that when we are turning, we're putting a lot of tension and pressure on the fabric. And so I don't want it to rip out at all, especially because this fabric is on the thinner side. It's more like a quilting cotton rather than a canvas or a bag fabric. All right, so that other bottom edge, we are pivoting, turning around, and then going up the other side. You're making sure your raw edges are lined up. If you want to finish these edges with a serger or a zigzag or pinking shears or whatever, you can go ahead and do that. But again, it's going to be all inside the bag. And so I'm not thinking it's going to get a lot of wear and tear along the way. Okay, so we're going to leave this one inside out so that when we sew them together, we can put the right sides together, one turned right side out and one inside out like this one is. But before we sew that, we have to go ahead and check out how to make the straps. So you can easily use straps that you already have, or we're going to create a double fold strap here with these pieces that I cut out. So I cut them 4 inches by 22 inches. Again, all that information is, can I slide this back at all? All that information is in the tutorial, but let's take a look here and see. You can see me folding this here. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty okay. All right, so you can press this if you want with an iron. I'm just going to go ahead and do a double fold and clip it with my fingers. But so we want to approximately find the center. And once I get going on this, notice you're going to fold in each side about to the center. And then you're going to fold it over again. So you have about a 1 inch wide strap that is like a double fold bias. Okay, so you can see how we're going to do that. So really simple, fold, 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 lots of folding. Again, you can press this first, but we're doing about an inch over and then clipped, and then about another inch over and clipped. Okay, all the way along there. And sometimes these clips like to spring right out of my fingers. If you were going to use an iron, I would make a press mark down the center. Then I would press one side all the way in, press the other side all the way in, and then go back and fold them together like this. But you can also just do it like this. All right, so there's one strap, all folded and clipped. Let's do the same thing with the other side. Again, if you have like pieces of strapping that you want to use instead, this is cut about 22 inches long. So you could use any strapping, you could use ribbon, you could use double fold bias tape that you've purchased. I sort of like the idea of it fully matching and being custom, but there are lots of ways to create the strap, the shoulder strap, or the handles, the carrier, whatever you want to call it that are going with it. You could also make it more like a crossbody bag and make the straps long enough to hang over your shoulder. These are definitely not that long. So before you cut the straps for yours, make sure you think about what am I wanting to use them for, and then cut the length accordingly for that. This is definitely just two handles that can be put over a kid's shoulder or carried in their hand, and just really simple. So just want to give you, though, lots of options that you can use to create the same idea with some different methods. Okay, so now let me bring this back forward. We're going to sew along the edge of this. And I usually like to, when I'm sewing on the edge of something, I like to move the needle over. So I'm actually going to move the needle over to the left. And that just allows me to have a little bit more of a base over the edge of the fabric that I'm sewing and provides stability with the presser foot. So think about adjusting. What is it doing? I don't know. Think about adjusting that needle location sometimes when you're sewing, just to have it more in a more convenient place. And I used to always just sew with my needle right in the center, never moved it left or right. But once I started moving it a little bit, I just realized, oh, it is so much easier, especially sometimes on these edge projects, to move that needle over, and it makes it so much easier to sew for certain projects. So something to think about. If you haven't done that recently, try moving your foot left or right and see if it provides a little bit more stability on the projects that you are sewing. All right, so we're going to sew down that folded edge, the double folded edge. We have one edge that has a single fold, one edge that has a double fold. You can go ahead and backstitch on the ends or not. It's not really too specific or mattering because we're going to be sewing this into the bag. Okay, so there's one strap. I think this fabric is so cute, and I love the colors. It's got some purple, but the blue and the green are also just so vibrant that it's used for a variety of things. So I have some extra fabric that, why is it stopping sewing? I feel like I moved it and then I probably one of the cords I probably loosened. I got a yard of each of these from Joanne for this project, and I did not use that much. This project takes less than a yard total, so I'll have to think about if I can make Rose a cute skirt or what else I can make from the rest of this adorable fabric. Okay, so now we have 2 straps that are just what we need to complete the project. We have the outside, we have the inside. The outside, remember, has the pockets on it. And now we need to attach the straps because we're going to be sewing around this upper edge. And when we do that, I like to attach the straps in there as well, so that when we turn it right side out, remember, we left a turning hole right here in the bottom of the lining. That's the most inconspicuous place to leave it. When I first started sewing bags, I always left the turning hole right on the top. So I would, sew these together and I'd leave a chunk of the top open and then I would turn it right there. And then you had the top stitch around the bag. And then I just realized, why am I doing it up here? Why am I not doing it on the inside where no one is really going to see? So that's, learning a little bit more experience. And that also comes from making things up as you go and not always wanting to follow other people's patterns and tutorials. Because if I had done that, I probably would have seen that others were doing it the way that I finally figured out it should be done. I'm going to go ahead and match the side seams on the lining and the outer fabric. Okay, and then the next step, and they should, when you pull this tight, it should be easy to sew around there, right? Because they should be the same size. We cut them the same size. Okay, so now we need to put the handles on. So I like to put the handles where the same edge is on the inside or the outside. What I mean by that is taking this piece or this side that has the sewing on it, and instead of doing it like this where it will lay flat but has a little bit of a twist down here, I like to turn it so that those sides with the stitches on them are together. And so when you pick this up, there's no twist or turn in the handle. But again, you can do that however you want, but that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to put the stitching towards the inside. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lower this strap, keeping those edges lined up how we just did at the top. And those stitches together, and we're going to pin or clip these to the top edge of the bag. Now you should probably try and measure and center these. So I'm just going to stick this here and then stick this one, and then I'm going to grab my measuring tape and make sure they're even from the side seams. So let's grab that right here. If I was doing it on my cutting mat, I could easily do that as well. So we have the side seam here, and then we have the edge of the strap. So we're going to put the edge of the strap 2.5 inches from the side seam, and then you want to line it up so that it's perpendicular with the top, or parallel with the top, going down perpendicular so that that will hang nicely when it's done. All right, and this one I need to move over as well. It's not the same 2.5 inches. Once you do the one side, you can pretty much use the first strap as a guide for the second strap. Okay, so now the strap is down inside my fabric between the 2 layers. Okay, so the fabric is here, the fabric is here, and that strap is down inside. So we're going to turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. Let me take my strap, put the sewed seams together, open up this side of the bag and drop it on in, keeping those straps not twisted. Okay, not twisted. And then I'm going to lay it flat and use the location of the other side to mark this side. So by laying it flat, I can see they're laid on top of each other. I put a clip there. Then we're gonna go over here. Okay, on that side, I see the location of where that strap is. Lay it on top and clip it in. Okay, again, I think I'm still on, but my camera just appeared to maybe turn off. But I think you guys can still see me. So if you can't see me or something is weird, tell me, because what I was just looking at on my camera, the screen just went blank. So, but I still appear to be on my computer. Okay, so you should have 4 layers of fabric up here on the top. The straps are sandwiched between the main and the lining, and we're going to sew all the way around, because remember, we left that turning hole here in the bottom. So make sure you have that turning hole. See right there? We're going to be able to turn our project right side out, and it's not going to be an issue. All right, so sewing around. When I sew around the top, I generally like to take a little bit of a bigger seam allowance just to make sure that it's really secure. Oh, and I also still have my needle not centered. So I'm going to go back to that centered needle. And this time I'm using closer to a 5/8 inch seam allowance. You can also do a quick little back stitch over the spot where the straps are attached if you want to make sure that they're really reinforced and in place. So you can think about that. All right, so I'm back stitching over the strap as I come to each of the 4 strap placements, going over the side seams, and just here sewing around the top of that bag. This is going to be so cute when we open it. I'm going to have to go run and grab some of my daughter's colored pencils and coloring pages to show you how fun it is to be able to load this up. So think about, for Christmas presents or donations to hospitals, or even like Christmas gifts. There are so many fun uses for a bag like this that you really could use it. Okay, so here we go. We've got it all sewn together. The next and the last step is to open this up right here. And then we're going to go ahead, and after we get it opened up, we'll sew that opening closed. So, but we want to check that our straps are attached. We want to check that everything looks good before we really do that. So I'm going to temporarily put this lining inside. Let me forget to sew up that opening, because I have done that before, just be like, oh, it's done. And then I'm like, why is there a hole in the bottom of my bag? Okay, so it looks so cute, just like that. This is the perfect art bag fabric. Look at those straps. They lay nicely, no twists. Okay, so you can see, no twists up and over. They're great for like putting on your shoulder, especially if you're a little bit smaller child. You can top stitch. I'm going to top stitch along the top here in just a minute after we close that opening to secure it, or you can also just press around the top of there. So let me go ahead and take out this lining with the hole in it, and we're gonna sew that up. So you want to sort of open it up and then press the seam allowance inside and flat. So that laid really nicely, actually. I don't want to sew, I'm not going to sew the whole bottom of the bag. I actually really just want to sew that bottom part. So you can put a couple clips in, put a couple pins in, but you're going to just stitch really close to the bottom, to the edge of the fabric. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute to close that opening. And then we won't, so here we've just sewed up right along there. Okay, easy peasy. Then we can really tuck it in here now and poke out the corners the other direction and get it lined up. There's quite a few little threads on here too that I need to clip, but those are perfect for now as well. Okay, so get in there, poke that down, shake it out, see how it goes. But look at that. It looks so, so cute. And I'm going to top stitch just around the top here to sort of secure it all in place and just give it an extra little finished feel. This is where you could also add a little tag of yours or anything else that you wanted along there. I'm going to once again move the needle for a little more counterbalance on there. And then make sure that those edges of the fabrics are lined up. And then also this top stitching over the straps will help to provide more stability, even though I did back stitch when I went over each of the straps. So, you know, there's nothing worse than a bag that the straps break out of. So I'm always wanting to make sure the straps are really sewn in place, especially something like this where it's pretty easy to do. And then we're just going to sew all the way around the circle of the top of the bag to finish it. And then I'll go ahead and just quickly grab a couple of colored pencils, maybe a coloring sheet, and show you how fun it is to put them all together in there. Okay, so quick little back stitch. Thank you, Lois. I know it's turning out so cute. You can put, if you want, a little fusible fleece also to give the bag a little bit more structure, but I did not do this with this one. One, I didn't have fusible fleece, and two, I was trying to actually test out if it really needs it. But I think once I get a few things in there, it's going to look super cute. So let me go ahead and just grab a couple colored pencils and a coloring sheet, and we'll put those right in there. So we can see the final look of how it all comes together. We've got a million colored pencils around in here. And okay, so a whole thing of colored pencils. Really, I just need to put a few in. Okay, so you can see those small little pockets that we sewed on there on this side are perfect for colored pencils. If you were doing markers, I would do fatter. If you were doing crayons, I would actually make the whole thing shorter because crayons aren't really this tall. But you can, I'm just getting a little variety of colored pencils here. So cute. That looks great and handy. And then I just grabbed a couple of tracing coloring sheets from my daughter's art drawer, and these fit in perfectly. So it really is sized for like typing paper or printer paper. So again, if you have a bigger art, coloring, or activity book, you're going to want to make sure that you get a different size. But ta-da! There you go. How cute is that? What a fun and easy project. And I hope that you will check out the full tutorial to sew one of these for yourself or a daughter or a granddaughter or a son or a grandson or niece or nephew or whoever you want to sew it for. But so cute and easy and makes a perfect gift. So start thinking about Christmas or other donations that you're going to be making. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will be back next week with another fun sewing tutorial. No idea what I'm going to do yet, but it will be fun. It will be great. And I will be here next Wednesday. Bye.